The transport shuttle touched down on Naval Base Zephyr with a gentle thud that barely disturbed the morning calm. Among the dozen new recruits stepping onto the concrete platform was a woman who looked no different from any other fresh-faced officer beginning their service. She wore the standard-issue uniform, carried a simple duffel bag, and walked with the same nervous energy that marked all newcomers to this prestigious military installation. Lieutenant Sarah Chen adjusted her cap against the desert wind and fell into line with the other recruits. Around her, conversations buzzed with excitement and anxiety. Some spoke of their training academies, others mentioned family traditions of military service, but Sarah remained quietly observant. She watched the base operations with keen eyes that seemed to catalog every detail, from the positioning of security checkpoints to the efficiency of personnel movements. The base itself was impressive, sprawling across several square miles of strategic coastline. Massive ships dotted the harbor, their steel hulls gleaming in the morning sun. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines created a forest of military might that commanded respect from any observer. For most of the new arrivals, this was their first glimpse of real naval power, and their faces showed appropriate awe. Commander Rodriguez, the orientation officer, gathered the group near the administrative building. His voice carried the authority of 20 years in service as he explained the base's importance to national security. Sarah listened intently, though something in her posture suggested familiarity rather than discovery. When Rodriguez mentioned recent strategic challenges facing the Naval Command, her expression sharpened with what appeared to be professional interest rather than mere curiosity. During the initial processing, each recruit presented their orders and underwent standard security verification. When Sarah's turn came, she handed over her documentation with the same routine efficiency as everyone else. The clerk barely glanced at the papers before stamping them and directing her toward temporary quarters. What he failed to notice was the additional sealed envelope that Sarah quietly pocketed after his cursory review. The temporary barracks were Spartan but functional, housing 4 officers per room. Sarah's roommates were eager to share their backgrounds and career aspirations. Jennifer Walsh had graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy and dreamed of commanding her own vessel someday. Marcus Thompson came from a family of submariners and hoped to follow in his father's footsteps. Patricia Kim had transferred from intelligence work and was excited about applying her analytical skills to naval operations. As they unpacked their belongings, Sarah participated in the conversations with just enough engagement to seem friendly, without revealing much about herself. When asked about her previous assignment, she mentioned routine duty at a training facility. When questioned about her goals, she spoke generally about serving her country effectively. Her responses were perfectly appropriate, yet somehow managed to deflect any deeper inquiry into her background. That evening, the new recruits gathered in the mess hall for their first meal on base. The atmosphere was casual, with established personnel mixing freely with the newcomers. Sarah found herself at a table with several junior officers who seemed eager to share base gossip and unofficial information about various commanding officers. She listened more than she spoke, occasionally asking questions that demonstrated surprising insight into military protocol and strategic thinking. One particularly talkative ensign mentioned recent tensions with Admiral Catherine Morrison, the base commander. According to the gossip, Morrison was brilliant but demanding, with little patience for incompetence or inefficiency. Several department heads had been reassigned under her command, leading to speculation about her management style. Sarah's expression remained neutral during these discussions, though she seemed to file away every detail for future reference. After dinner, Sarah took a solitary walk around the base perimeter. Her route appeared casual, but she moved with purpose, observing security measures, patrol patterns, and general operational procedures. When a guard questioned her presence in a restricted area, she produced proper identification and explained she was familiarizing herself with the facility. Her confidence and knowledge of appropriate protocols convinced the guard she belonged there. Back in the barracks, as her roommates discussed their first-day impressions, Sarah sat on her bunk reviewing what appeared to be standard orientation materials. However, anyone watching closely might have noticed she was actually studying detailed personnel files and operational reports that seemed far above the clearance level of a typical new recruit. She read with the focused attention of someone preparing for significant responsibilities, rather than simply learning basic procedures. The night shift brought different energy to the base. With reduced personnel and heightened security awareness, Sarah waited until her roommates were asleep before quietly slipping out for what she told herself was a necessary reconnaissance mission. She moved through the darkened corridors with familiarity that seemed impossible for someone on their first day, avoiding security cameras and patrols with practiced ease. Her destination was the communications center, where she used credentials that should not have existed to access secure terminals. For nearly an hour, she reviewed classified reports, personnel evaluations, and strategic assessments that painted a comprehensive picture of base operations. Her face remained impassive as she absorbed information about supply chain vulnerabilities, personnel conflicts, and operational inefficiencies that threatened mission readiness. Before dawn, Sarah returned to her quarters undetected, having gathered intelligence that would prove crucial in the coming days. As she finally settled into sleep, her roommates remained unaware they were sharing space with someone whose true identity and purpose would soon reshape everything they thought they knew about Naval Base Zephyr. The morning would bring new challenges, but Sarah Chen was prepared for whatever lay ahead, armed with knowledge and authority that none of her fellow recruits could possibly imagine. The morning alarm echoed through the barracks at precisely 0500 hours, jolting the new recruits from sleep. Sarah was already awake, having risen 30 minutes earlier to review additional classified materials she had somehow acquired. As her roommates groggily prepared for their first full day of orientation, she moved with quiet efficiency, displaying a morning routine that seemed more polished than someone fresh from a training facility should possess. Breakfast. In the mess hall buzzed with nervous energy as the recruits prepared for their departmental assignments. Sarah had been assigned to the Strategic Operations Division, a placement that surprised some of the other officers who had expected to start in more basic positions. When Jennifer Walsh commented on the prestigious assignment, Sarah simply explained that her previous experience had prepared her for analytical work, though she remained vague about the specifics of that experience. The Strategic Operations Center occupied an entire floor of the base's main command building. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce, the department head, greeted the new arrivals with a mixture of skepticism and resignation. His department was understaffed and overwhelmed, dealing with complex logistical challenges that had plagued the base for months. Recent supply chain disruptions and personnel shortages had created a backlog of critical decisions requiring immediate attention. Pierce assigned each officer to work with an experienced team member, but when he reached Sarah's name on his list, he paused. Looking directly at her, he explained that she would be working independently on a special project analyzing base efficiency metrics. The other recruits exchanged glances, wondering why someone so new would receive such autonomy, but Pierce's tone discouraged questions. Sarah accepted the assignment with professional composure that impressed everyone present. Her workspace was a small office adjacent to the main operations floor, equipped with multiple secure terminals and communication systems. Within hours, Sarah had transformed the space into what resembled a command center, with charts, graphs, and data streams covering every available surface. Her analysis methods were sophisticated and thorough, employing techniques that seemed beyond the training level of a recent academy graduate. By midday, Sarah had identified 12 critical inefficiencies in base operations that had been overlooked by previous reviews. Her recommendations were detailed and actionable, addressing everything from supply rotation schedules to communication protocol improvements. When she submitted her preliminary report to Lieutenant Colonel Pierce, his expression shifted from mild interest to genuine surprise at the quality and depth of her analysis. Word of the impressive report spread quickly through the Strategic Operations Center. Senior officers who had initially dismissed the new recruit began seeking her input on various challenges they were facing. Sarah responded to each consultation with insights that demonstrated comprehensive understanding of military logistics, strategic planning, and operational psychology. Her colleagues began to wonder about her background and training. Meanwhile, Admiral Morrison was dealing with mounting pressure from Naval Command regarding base performance metrics. Recent inspections had revealed concerning trends in readiness levels, morale indicators, and operational efficiency. Washington was demanding immediate improvements, and Morrison knew her command was under intense scrutiny. She had requested additional resources and personnel, but bureaucratic delays meant she had to work with existing staff. That afternoon, Pierce requested a meeting with Admiral Morrison to discuss the new recruit, whose analysis had identified solutions to several persistent problems. He brought Sarah's report, explaining how someone with supposedly limited experience had managed to pinpoint issues that veteran officers had missed. Morrison reviewed the document with growing interest, noting the sophisticated approach and comprehensive recommendations that suggested far more expertise than the personnel file indicated. Sarah spent the afternoon implementing her first set of recommendations, coordinating with various department heads to test new procedures. Her interactions with senior staff were confident and professional, displaying knowledge of protocol and procedure that impressed everyone she worked with. When questioned about her familiarity with certain classified systems, she explained that her previous assignment had provided broader exposure than typical training positions. The evening shift brought Sarah's first direct interaction with base security concerns. A minor incident involving unauthorized access to restricted areas required investigation, and Sarah volunteered to assist with the security review. Her questions were insightful, and her analysis of the breach revealed vulnerabilities that the security team had not considered. Captain Martinez, the security chief, found himself impressed by her understanding of protection protocols and threat assessment. During dinner, conversation among the recruits focused on their first-day experiences. Sarah's colleagues were curious about her special assignment and the attention she was receiving from senior staff. She deflected their questions with humor and modesty, suggesting that her analytical background had simply prepared her for the type of work the base needed. However, her responses revealed knowledge of military operations that extended far beyond what any training facility could provide. After dinner, Sarah returned to her office to continue her analysis of base operations. She worked late into the evening, accessing databases and systems that required clearance levels typically reserved for senior officers. Her investigation revealed a complex web of operational challenges that threatened base readiness, including supply chain vulnerabilities, communication gaps, and personnel management issues that needed immediate attention. As she compiled her findings into a comprehensive assessment, Sarah's true expertise became increasingly evident in the sophistication of her analysis and recommendations. Her understanding of naval operations, strategic planning, and military leadership suggested experience far beyond her apparent rank and supposed background. The document she was creating would soon become the foundation for major operational changes at Naval Base Zephyr. Late that night, Admiral Morrison received an encrypted communication from Naval Command requesting an urgent briefing on base operations and recent personnel assignments. The message mentioned specific concern about efficiency improvements and asked for detailed information about any new staff contributing to positive changes. Morrison realized that someone in Washington was paying very close attention to recent developments at her base, though she had not yet connected these inquiries to the remarkable new recruit working in strategic operations. The second week at Naval Base Zephyr brought unexpected developments that would reshape the entire command structure. Sarah had quietly established herself as an invaluable asset to the Strategic Operations Division, her recommendations already producing measurable improvements in base efficiency. However, her growing influence was beginning to attract attention from quarters she had hoped to avoid for a little longer. Commander Williams from the Intelligence Division had been conducting routine background checks on new personnel when he discovered discrepancies in Sarah's service record. Certain details about her previous assignments were classified beyond his clearance level, which was unusual for someone with her apparent rank and experience. His inquiries to Personnel Command were met with responses directing him to discontinue his investigation immediately, raising more questions than they answered. Meanwhile, Sarah was implementing her second phase of operational improvements, focusing on communication protocols between departments. Her analysis had revealed that information delays were causing critical decision-making bottlenecks throughout the base. Working directly with department heads, she established new coordination procedures that dramatically improved response times for urgent situations. Admiral Morrison took notice when emergency response drills showed unprecedented improvement levels. The breakthrough came during a surprise inspection from Fleet Command. Inspector General Hawkins arrived unannounced with a team of evaluators, expecting to find the same efficiency problems that had plagued Naval Base Zephyr for months. Instead, they discovered a smoothly operating facility with impressive performance metrics across all major categories. Operations that had previously failed inspection standards were now exceeding fleet-wide benchmarks. Sarah observed the inspection from her position in strategic operations, watching as the evaluation team encountered system after system running at optimal efficiency. Her recommendations had addressed each area the inspectors examined, creating improvements that appeared to have taken months of planning and implementation. Admiral Morrison fielded questions about the dramatic transformation, crediting her staff's dedication while privately wondering how such comprehensive changes had occurred so quickly. Inspector General Hawkins requested detailed briefings on recent operational modifications, particularly interested in the analytical methods that had identified improvement opportunities. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce found himself presenting Sarah's work to the evaluation team, explaining methodologies and implementation strategies that impressed the veteran inspectors. When they asked to meet the officer responsible for the analysis, Pierce arranged for Sarah to join the briefing. The conference room fell silent as Sarah entered and began presenting her comprehensive assessment of base operations. Her briefing was masterful, combining detailed technical analysis with strategic insights that demonstrated exceptional understanding of naval operations. She fielded questions from the inspection team with confidence and expertise that left everyone present impressed by her knowledge and capabilities. However, Inspector General Hawkins recognized something familiar in Sarah's analytical approach and presentation style. Her methodologies matched those used by senior strategic planners at Naval Command, and her insights reflected experience levels typically found only among flag officers. After the briefing, he privately questioned Admiral Morrison about Sarah's background and previous assignments, expressing concern that such talent was assigned at lieutenant level. Morrison began her own quiet investigation into Sarah's personnel file, discovering that certain aspects of her service record were classified at levels requiring special authorization to access. Phone calls to Personnel Command revealed that Sarah's assignment to Naval Base Zephyr had been personally directed by the Chief of Naval Operations, though the reasons for this high-level interest remained unclear. That evening, Sarah received an encrypted message on her personal communication device instructing her to prepare for accelerated timeline implementation. The carefully planned gradual revelation of her true identity would need to be moved forward due to the unexpected inspection results. Her cover as a new recruit had served its purpose, but the success of her improvements had drawn more attention than anticipated. The next morning brought news that Fleet Admiral Richardson would be visiting Naval Base Zephyr for a comprehensive review of recent operational improvements. This announcement created excitement throughout the base, as visits from four-star admirals were rare and significant events. Admiral Morrison immediately began preparations for the high-level visit. Unaware that the Fleet Admiral's primary interest was in meeting with a certain lieutenant in strategic operations, Sarah spent the day finalizing her complete assessment of Naval Base Zephyr, preparing recommendations that would serve as the foundation for fleet-wide operational reforms. Her analysis revealed systemic issues affecting multiple installations, requiring coordinated solutions at the highest levels of naval command. The document she compiled would soon become classified material influencing strategic decisions throughout the entire Navy. Meanwhile, rumors began circulating among base personnel about the mysterious lieutenant whose work had transformed their operations. Stories spread about her uncanny ability to identify problems and implement solutions, her extensive knowledge of naval protocol, and her confident interactions with senior officers. Some began questioning whether someone so capable could really be just another new recruit fresh from training. Captain Stevens from the Personnel Division received urgent instructions to prepare complete service records for all recently assigned officers, with particular attention to verification of credentials and background details. His review of Sarah's file revealed multiple authentication codes and security classifications that seemed inconsistent with her stated rank and experience level. As preparations for Fleet Admiral Richardson's visit intensified, Sarah knew her time operating under cover was nearly over. The success of her mission had exceeded all expectations, but maintaining her disguise was becoming increasingly difficult as more people began asking questions about her background and capabilities. The next phase would require revealing her true identity and accepting the responsibilities that came with it. Admiral Morrison spent the evening reviewing personnel files and operational reports, trying to understand how her base had achieved such dramatic improvements in such a short time. Every path of investigation led back to the remarkable lieutenant in strategic operations, whose contributions seemed far beyond what her training and experience should have allowed. Morrison began to suspect that Sarah Chen was much more than she appeared to be. Fleet Admiral Richardson's arrival at Naval Base Zephyr created an atmosphere of heightened attention and nervous energy throughout the installation. His reputation as a demanding but fair leader preceded him, and everyone from junior officers to senior command staff prepared for intense scrutiny of their operations. What they didn't realize was that the Admiral's primary mission involved a very specific personnel matter that would soon reshape their understanding of their own base. Admiral Morrison greeted the Fleet Admiral with full military honors, arranging tours of facilities and briefings on recent operational improvements. Richardson participated in these formalities with appropriate attention, but his questions consistently returned to the analytical work that had driven the dramatic efficiency gains. He requested detailed explanations of the methodologies used and insisted on meeting personally with the officer responsible for the strategic analysis. Sarah prepared for this meeting knowing it would likely end her carefully maintained cover as a simple new recruit. She spent the morning reviewing her comprehensive assessment of base operations and preparing recommendations that would extend far beyond Naval Base Zephyr. Her analysis had revealed fleet-wide systemic issues that required attention at the highest levels of naval command, making this meeting crucial for broader military effectiveness. The conference room was packed with senior officers when Sarah arrived for her presentation to Fleet Admiral Richardson. Admiral Morrison introduced her as Lieutenant Chen, the strategic analyst whose work had transformed base operations. Richardson studied Sarah carefully as she began her briefing, his expression revealing recognition that surprised everyone present except Sarah herself. Her presentation was comprehensive and sophisticated, addressing not only the specific improvements implemented at Naval Base Zephyr, but also broader implications for fleet operations. Sarah outlined systemic vulnerabilities in supply chain management, communication protocols, and personnel utilization that affected multiple installations. Her recommendations included strategic reforms that could enhance naval readiness across all theater commands. Fleet Admiral Richardson asked increasingly specific questions about strategic planning assumptions, resource allocation theories, and operational philosophy that demonstrated his own extensive expertise. Sarah answered each inquiry with detailed knowledge that impressed everyone present, displaying familiarity with classified, strategic initiatives and defense planning concepts that seemed impossible for someone at her apparent rank to possess. The turning point came when Richardson asked about her analysis of joint operations coordination between naval and other military branches. Sarah's response revealed intimate knowledge of Pentagon-level planning processes and inter-service cooperation strategies that could only come from direct involvement in high-level strategic planning. Admiral Morrison and the other senior officers exchanged puzzled glances, realizing they were witnessing expertise far beyond what any lieutenant should possess. After 2 hours of intensive questioning, Fleet Admiral Richardson dismissed everyone except Sarah and Admiral Morrison. The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically as Richardson's formal demeanor gave way to a more relaxed but serious tone. He looked directly at Sarah and asked when she planned to reveal her true identity to Admiral Morrison and the base command staff. The question hung in the air like a dropped bombshell. Admiral Morrison stared at Richardson, then at Sarah, beginning to understand that nothing about the situation was what it had seemed. Sarah straightened in her chair, and for the first time since arriving at the base, her carefully maintained disguise began to fall away. Her posture changed subtly, carrying an authority that had been hidden beneath the facade of a new recruit. Richardson explained to the stunned Admiral Morrison that Lieutenant Chen was actually Admiral Sarah Chen, one of the Navy's youngest flag officers and a rising star in strategic planning circles. She had been operating under deep cover for 3 weeks to conduct a comprehensive assessment of base operations without the artificial improvements that typically accompanied announced inspections. Her mission had been personally authorized by the Chief of Naval Operations as part of a broader efficiency initiative. Admiral Morrison struggled to process this revelation, understanding that she had been unknowingly hosting a fellow admiral who had been observing every aspect of her command. The implications were staggering. Someone of equal rank had been working under her authority, identifying problems and implementing solutions while maintaining complete operational security. Her emotions ranged from embarrassment to admiration for the sophisticated deception. Sarah, now acknowledged as Admiral Chen, explained her mission's purpose and scope. Naval Command had been concerned about declining efficiency metrics across multiple installations and needed unbiased assessments of operational realities. Traditional inspections often produced temporary improvements that masked underlying systemic problems, making genuine evaluation difficult. Her undercover approach had revealed authentic operational conditions and identified realistic solutions. The conversation shifted to the broader implications of her findings. Admiral Chen's analysis had confirmed that problems at Naval Base Zephyr were symptomatic of fleet-wide issues requiring comprehensive strategic response. Her recommendations would influence resource allocation, training programs, and operational procedures across multiple commands. The success of her mission had exceeded all expectations, providing valuable intelligence for naval strategic planning. Admiral Morrison asked about the ethical implications of the deception, expressing concern about the impact on morale when staff learned they had been unknowingly observed and evaluated. Admiral Chen acknowledged these concerns, but emphasized the critical importance of authentic assessment for military effectiveness. The improvements achieved during her time undercover demonstrated the potential benefits of honest operational evaluation. Fleet Admiral Richardson praised both officers for their professionalism and the remarkable results achieved during the assessment period. Admiral Chen's work had provided Naval Command with actionable intelligence about operational realities, while Admiral Morrison's leadership had created an environment where genuine improvements could be implemented effectively. The collaboration, though initially deceptive, had produced outcomes beneficial to overall naval readiness. As the private meeting concluded, the three flag officers discussed the process for revealing Admiral Chen's true identity to base personnel. The announcement would need careful management to maintain morale while explaining the strategic importance of her mission. Tomorrow would bring significant changes to Naval Base Zephyr, as everyone adjusted to the reality that their remarkable new recruit had actually been their commanding admiral all along. The announcement was scheduled for 0800 hours in the main assembly hall, with all base personnel required to attend what they believed would be a routine address from Fleet Admiral Richardson regarding recent operational improvements. Admiral Morrison had spent a sleepless night contemplating how her officers would react to learning that their colleague Lieutenant Chen was actually Admiral Sarah Chen, one of the Navy's most respected strategic minds who had been operating undercover among them. As personnel filed into the assembly hall, conversations buzzed with speculation about the purpose of the gathering. Many assumed Fleet Admiral Richardson would be commending their recent achievements and perhaps announcing commendations for outstanding performance. Sarah's former roommates from the recruit barracks sat together, still amazed by their friend's rapid rise to prominence in strategic operations, completely unaware of the shocking revelation awaiting them. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce arrived early, having spent the previous evening reviewing every interaction he'd had with Sarah since her arrival. In retrospect, signs of her exceptional expertise seemed obvious. Her sophisticated analytical methods, her confident interactions with senior staff, and her uncanny ability to identify solutions to complex problems that had stumped veteran officers for months. He wondered how he had missed what now seemed like clear indicators of her true identity. Commander Williams from Intelligence sat with mixed emotions, embarrassed that his investigation into Sarah's background had been deflected so easily. He realized now that the classification barriers he'd encountered were protecting the identity of a flag officer on a covert mission, not hiding irregularities in a recruit service record. His inability to penetrate those security measures suddenly made perfect sense. Fleet Admiral Richardson took the podium with Admiral Morrison beside him, both wearing expressions of serious purpose that immediately captured the audience's attention. Richardson began by praising the remarkable improvements in base operations that had been achieved over the past 3 weeks. Improvements that had transformed Naval Base Zephyr from a struggling installation to a model of military efficiency. He explained that these achievements had been possible due to a special assessment mission authorized at the highest levels of Naval Command. The audience listened with growing curiosity as Richardson described how traditional inspection methods often failed to reveal authentic operational realities, leading to temporary fixes rather than genuine improvements. A different approach had been necessary to achieve honest evaluation and lasting solutions. The moment of revelation arrived when Fleet Admiral Richardson called Lieutenant Sarah Chen to join him at the podium. As she walked forward, her bearing had completely transformed from the modest recruit persona she had maintained for weeks. She moved with the confident authority of a flag officer, her posture and presence commanding respect from everyone present. Even in lieutenant's insignia, she now projected unmistakable command presence. Richardson announced that Lieutenant Chen was actually Admiral Sarah Chen, a distinguished flag officer who had been conducting an undercover assessment of base operations for the past 3 weeks. The assembly hall erupted in shocked murmurs as personnel struggled to process this revelation. The quiet recruit who had been living in their barracks and working alongside them was actually one of the Navy's most senior strategic planners. Admiral Chen stepped forward to address her former colleagues directly. She acknowledged the deception necessary for her mission, while emphasizing the critical importance of honest operational assessment for military effectiveness. Her voice carried the authority that had been carefully hidden beneath her recruit facade, explaining how their authentic behavior had enabled her to identify genuine problems and implement lasting solutions. The reaction among base personnel was mixed but generally positive. Many officers expressed amazement at the sophisticated deception and admiration for Admiral Chen's commitment to understanding operational realities firsthand. Others felt embarrassed about casual comments they had made about senior leadership in her presence. While some appreciated that she had experienced the same daily challenges they faced as regular personnel, Sarah's former roommates sat in stunned silence, remembering conversations about career aspirations and base gossip that had taken place while sharing quarters with a flag officer. Jennifer Walsh recalled asking Admiral Chen about her goals and receiving modest responses about serving effectively advice that now carried entirely different weight coming from someone who had already achieved the highest levels of naval command. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce found himself reflecting on every briefing and consultation he had conducted with Admiral Chen, realizing that her insights had been those of a peer rather than a subordinate. Her recommendations had carried the weight of extensive command experience, explaining why her solutions had been so effective and comprehensive. He felt both honored and intimidated to have worked so closely with such a distinguished officer. The announcement continued, with Fleet Admiral Richardson explaining that Admiral Chen would be remaining at Naval Base Zephyr in her true capacity, working with Admiral Morrison to implement fleet-wide reforms based on her assessment findings. Her mission had evolved from covert observation to overt leadership, with responsibility for coordinating improvements across multiple installations. Admiral Morrison addressed the assembly about the transition, emphasizing that Admiral Chen's presence would enhance rather than complicate the command structure. Her expertise would be invaluable for continued operational improvements and professional development opportunities for base personnel. The collaboration between two experienced flag officers would strengthen Naval Base Zephyr's role as a center of excellence. As the assembly concluded, personnel began adjusting to the new reality of having Admiral Chen among them in her true capacity. Conversations buzzed with amazement at the successful deception and curiosity about what her continued presence would mean for base operations. Many officers who had worked with her during the assessment period felt proud to have contributed to her mission's success. The transformation was complete. Sarah Chen had successfully transitioned from undercover recruit to acknowledged flag officer, her mission accomplished beyond all expectations. The real work of implementing comprehensive naval reforms was just beginning, but her 3 weeks of authentic observation had provided the foundation for changes that would influence military effectiveness far beyond Naval Base Zephyr. The base that had unknowingly hosted an admiral in disguise would now benefit from her expertise in full view. The days following Admiral Chen's revelation brought a period of adjustment and transformation throughout Naval Base Zephyr. Personnel who had worked alongside her during the assessment period found themselves processing the reality that their colleague had been one of the Navy's most senior strategic planners. The psychological shift from viewing her as Lieutenant Chen to Admiral Chen required significant mental adaptation for everyone involved. Admiral Morrison convened her senior staff for an extended briefing on the implications of Admiral Chen's findings and recommendations. The comprehensive assessment had revealed systemic issues that extended far beyond their installation, requiring coordinated responses across multiple command levels. Her presence would facilitate direct communication with Naval Command about implementation of fleet-wide reforms, positioning Naval Base Zephyr as a pilot location for innovative operational procedures. The physical transformation of Admiral Chen's workspace reflected her new status. The small office in strategic operations was replaced with a proper flag officer suite, equipped with secure communications, classified analysis systems, and direct links to Pentagon strategic planning networks. Her team expanded to include experienced analysts and communication specialists required to support her broader mission responsibilities. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce found his relationship with Admiral Chen completely redefined. Their previous interactions as superior and subordinate were replaced with collaboration between senior officers working toward shared strategic objectives. Pierce discovered that Admiral Chen valued his operational expertise and sought his input on implementation strategies, creating a partnership that enhanced both officers' effectiveness. The former recruit barracks roommates requested a meeting with Admiral Chen to discuss their experiences during the assessment period. Jennifer Walsh, Marcus Thompson, and Patricia Kim sat nervously as Admiral Chen explained her mission's requirements and apologized for the necessary deception. She emphasized how their authentic behavior had contributed to the mission's success, providing valuable insights into junior officer perspectives and daily operational realities. Commander Williams from Intelligence received detailed briefings on the security protocols that had protected Admiral Chen's cover during the assessment period. The classification systems and access controls he had encountered during his investigation were revealed as sophisticated protection measures for a flag officer operating in hostile territory. His professional curiosity was satisfied by understanding the security architecture that had successfully maintained operational secrecy. Admiral Chen began implementing the second phase of her recommendations, focusing on fleet-wide coordination improvements that required direct communication with other installation commanders. Her analysis had identified common problems across multiple bases that could be addressed through standardized solutions and shared best practices. Naval Base Zephyr would serve as the testing ground for procedures that would eventually be deployed. Throughout the fleet, the communication protocols Admiral Chen established revolutionized information sharing between departments and external commands. Her experience during the assessment period had revealed how information delays created decision-making bottlenecks that compromised operational effectiveness. The new systems she implemented became models for communication reforms across the entire Naval Command structure. Fleet Admiral Richardson maintained regular contact with Admiral Chen as her findings influenced strategic planning at the highest levels of Naval Command. Her recommendations were being incorporated into budget planning, personnel policies, and training programs that would affect military readiness for years to come. The success of her undercover assessment had validated innovative evaluation methods that might be replicated in other contexts. Meanwhile, Admiral Chen worked closely with Admiral Morrison to establish a collaborative command structure that maximized both officers' strengths. Morrison's operational expertise combined with Chen's strategic planning capabilities created a leadership team capable of addressing complex challenges more effectively than either could manage independently. Their partnership became a model for flag officer collaboration that attracted attention from Naval Command. The base personnel gradually adapted to Admiral Chen's transformed status, with many officers seeking opportunities to work with her on strategic initiatives. Her approachable leadership style, developed during her time as Lieutenant Chen, made her more accessible than typical flag officers. Junior personnel felt comfortable presenting ideas and concerns, knowing she understood their daily challenges from first-hand experience. Training programs at Naval Base Zephyr were completely redesigned based on Admiral Chen's assessment of skill gaps and development needs. Her recommendations addressed both technical competencies and leadership capabilities, creating comprehensive professional development opportunities that prepared personnel for advancement and increased responsibilities. The programs became so successful that other installations requested similar training frameworks. The supply chain improvements Admiral Chen had identified during her assessment were implemented with remarkable success, eliminating waste and delays that had plagued operations for months. Her understanding of both strategic requirements and practical limitations enabled development of logistics solutions that balanced efficiency with reliability. These improvements saved significant resources while enhancing operational readiness. Admiral Chen established regular forums for cross-departmental collaboration, bringing together officers from different specialties to address complex challenges requiring diverse expertise. These sessions broke down traditional silos that had limited information sharing and problem-solving effectiveness. The collaborative approach became a defining characteristic of Naval Base Zephyr's operational culture, as word of the successful assessment and subsequent improvements spread throughout the Naval Command structure. Admiral Chen received requests to conduct similar evaluations at other installations. Her innovative undercover methodology had proven so effective that Naval Command was considering making such assessments a standard tool for identifying operational improvements and ensuring authentic performance evaluation. The transformation of Naval Base Zephyr from struggling installation to center of excellence was complete, but Admiral Chen's work was expanding beyond the original mission parameters. Her success had demonstrated the value of authentic assessment and collaborative leadership, principles that were being adopted throughout the fleet. The base that had unknowingly hosted an undercover admiral was now leading naval innovation under her direct command. 6 months after Admiral Chen's revelation, Naval Base Zephyr had become the crown jewel of the Pacific Fleet, serving as both the operational excellence center and a training ground for innovative military leadership techniques. Her undercover assessment had evolved into a comprehensive transformation that influenced naval operations across multiple theater commands. The base that had struggled with efficiency problems now set the standard for military effectiveness throughout the entire fleet. The annual fleet readiness evaluation brought delegations from installations worldwide to study the revolutionary improvements implemented under Admiral Chen's leadership. Officers from bases across the Pacific, Atlantic, and Mediterranean commands observed training programs, communication protocols, and operational procedures that had emerged from her authentic assessment of military realities. Naval Base Zephyr had become a laboratory for military innovation. Admiral Chen's former roommates from the recruit barracks had all received accelerated promotions and choice assignments based on their exemplary performance. During the assessment period, Jennifer Walsh was now commanding her own destroyer, Marcus Thompson had been selected for submarine command training, and Patricia Kim was working in Pentagon intelligence analysis. Their authentic interactions with Admiral Chen during her undercover mission had provided valuable perspectives that influenced their career development. The collaborative command structure established by Admirals Chen and Morrison had become a model for flag officer partnerships throughout the naval service. Their ability to combine strategic vision with operational expertise had produced results that exceeded what either could achieve independently. Joint command arrangements based on their successful collaboration were being tested at other major installations. Lieutenant Colonel Pierce had been promoted to colonel and assigned as Admiral Chen's Chief of Staff, managing the expanding strategic initiatives that emerged from her assessment findings. His operational knowledge combined with her strategic expertise continued producing innovative solutions to complex military challenges. Their partnership had evolved into one of the most effective strategic planning teams in the naval service. The communication systems Admiral Chen developed during her assessment had been adopted fleet-wide, eliminating information delays that had compromised decision-making effectiveness across multiple commands. Her understanding of how communication failures affected daily operations enabled development of protocols that enhanced both routine coordination and crisis response capabilities. These improvements had measurably enhanced naval readiness across all theater commands. Training programs based on Admiral Chen's assessment findings were producing officers better prepared for the complex challenges of modern military service. The comprehensive professional development framework addressed technical competencies, leadership capabilities, and strategic thinking skills that prepared personnel for advancement to senior positions. Graduates from Naval Base Zephyr programs were sought after for critical assignments throughout the fleet. The supply chain innovations Admiral Chen had implemented became the foundation for naval logistics reforms that saved millions in resources while improving operational reliability. Her ability to understand both strategic requirements and practical limitations had enabled development of systems that balanced efficiency with effectiveness. These improvements were being replicated at installations worldwide. Admiral Chen received the Navy Distinguished Service Medal for her groundbreaking assessment mission and subsequent transformation of naval operations. The ceremony was attended by the Chief of Naval Operations and other senior leadership, recognizing her innovative approach to authentic evaluation and her contributions to military effectiveness. Her methods were being studied for potential application in other military contexts. The success of Admiral Chen's undercover assessment had validated new approaches to military evaluation that were being implemented across all service branches. Traditional inspection methods that produced temporary improvements were being supplemented with authentic assessment techniques that revealed genuine operational realities. Her methodology was revolutionizing how military effectiveness was measured and improved. Naval Base Zephyr's transformation from struggling installation to center of excellence had created a legacy that extended far beyond its original mission. The base now served multiple roles: operational command, training center, innovation laboratory, and strategic planning hub that influenced naval policy at the highest levels. Admiral Chen's vision had created an institution that would shape military effectiveness for generations. The officers who had worked alongside Admiral Chen during her time as Lieutenant Chen often reflected on the experience with amazement and pride. They had contributed to a mission of national importance while experiencing firsthand the leadership qualities that distinguished exceptional military officers. Their stories became part of naval folklore, inspiring future generations of service members. Fleet Admiral Richardson visited Naval Base Zephyr for the anniversary of Admiral Chen's revelation, praising the remarkable transformation that had occurred and the broader impact on naval operations. He announced that Admiral Chen would be receiving her second star and expanding her responsibilities to include strategic planning for the entire Pacific Fleet. Her success had earned recognition at the highest levels of military command. The legacy of Admiral Chen's undercover mission continued influencing naval operations and military leadership development long after her identity was revealed. Her innovative approach to authentic assessment, collaborative leadership, and strategic implementation had created new standards for military excellence that were being adopted throughout the defense establishment. The quiet recruit who had arrived at Naval Base Zephyr 6 months earlier had transformed not only one installation, but the entire naval service. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the deck of the command ship, watching fleet exercises that demonstrated the effectiveness of her innovations. The sailors and officers executing complex maneuvers with precision and confidence were living proof that authentic assessment and collaborative leadership could achieve remarkable results. Her journey from undercover recruit to recognized strategic leader had validated the power of understanding military realities from the ground up, creating lasting change that would serve her country for decades to come.